Now, my mom was great. I still think of her as being a great woman. Um, but her husband, when I was younger, I was just terrified. When I was eight, 8 years old, um, my mom's husband beat her so bad that I couldn't recognize her face. He had hit me plenty of times. Uh, more than once is already more than enough times. But there was still something kind of lacking. Um, I had met, uh, well, this older man befriended me. Again, I was 8, turning 9. Uh, First, it was just feeling um, pretty good about myself around him. He was nice to me. He called me by my name. Uh, he was very affectionate, and I would see him uh, after school. My mom didn't get home from work until 6 o'clock every day, or 4 days a week, and I didn't want to be at home with her husband. I didn't really get along with my brother, so I was just off on my own. Um, at this guy's house, he was kind of my my safe haven, and one day he just started touching me. He never did anything violent. It was really confusing. Of course, I didn't know what was happening. Um, but this went on for months. And one of the things he said was, this is what real dads do with their real sons. And I needed to believe him. The last day I saw him, I had gone with him. He took me to a park where he walked me over to this other man. And this other man took me, and that was the last time I saw my first abuser, my first sexual abuser. This other man took me with him. It was very odd, and he had me get in his car and um, sit down on the floorboard and kept my head down. Um, I was taken to this house, uh, taken down to the basement, where I found a bunch of men, a handful of men, and they raped me. Now the guy before, he had never done that. It was all touching stuff with him, but this group of men. I never got to see their faces. They wore masks, and this went on for what would be the next like 3 years, periodically. How it was that I was uh, taken by them, in contact with them, um, just, I don't know, every other month they would do, they would come get me, um, after school. A lot of this stuff seemed to take place during the school year. They did stuff that it's so just hard to describe, and it wasn't all sexual. A lot of it was uh, degradation. What's the word? Degrading and pain. They they threatened that they'd kill me and nobody'd ever see me again. They threatened that they'd hurt my mom. And everything before them made me vulnerable to it. With the first abuser being one thing, but these other men, I was I was just trapped. And one day, I don't remember how it ended, um, but I just felt I had to tell somebody, and I had a very hard time trying to decide who. It was either one of my coaches. I wrestled in middle school, and I trusted him a lot. Um, if anything, he was like a real uh, male figure in my life. Um, I feel like I was prepared for it. I continued wrestling through high school. Um, Again, my coaches, wrestling to me is just like the greatest sport. Um, and I think it got me through a lot. It kept me in school, uh, got me to graduation, and um, I'd say prepared me for the military. But for some reason, I felt hesitant, um, thinking he'd think of me different, see me different. And so my other option was, I grew up in a Catholic church, and I just decided to go to a priest, knowing that they couldn't tell anybody. And um, when you grow up Catholic, you're basically taught that a priest can do no wrong. They're right next to God. And so I went to a church, and I told him, um, he he said he could help me. Um, when I did tell him, he was very compassionate, empathetic. He held me while I cried. And when it came to helping me, as I started to see him occasionally, um, he he started molesting me too. I couldn't understand why all these people could hurt me, all these men. Because during all the time I was getting molested by these different men, these monsters, I was still having to deal with the violence at home. The PTSD had hit, and I didn't know what was going on with me. Um, I didn't I didn't know how to handle anything. I tried working for a couple years and couldn't keep a job. I kept one job for quite a while, but when I lost that job, I lost my um, I lost my apartment, and I ended up homeless for the next 2.5 years. Um, my veterans benefits hadn't kicked in. Um, I was still waiting for that whole system to work in my favor, and it took a lot of time. But that's how I got off the street, is uh, my veterans benefits, or medical retirement um, happened, and I was able to start recovery. So I started going to therapy, counseling, um, the early 2000s. And at first, I couldn't talk about anything. I just go in and sit there and talk minimally about non-important things. First couple few years was very difficult to talk. I really trusted my therapist. He was a psychologist, and um, I just didn't know how to say things clearly. And eventually, I did. I disclosed to him um, in more and more detail. Um, he helped me a lot. He was a VA doctor, so he was one of the good ones. So I just continued therapy. Uh, I got to the point where uh, I could finally start to function. I could get out of my house. Um, I wasn't having as many anxiety attacks, not as many flashbacks, uh, which I was very uh, hyper aroused uh, for a long time. I hear something and it would make me jump under a table. I'd end up under a table or on the floor curled up. Um, but also during this time, I coached wrestling, and that was my therapy also. It was doing something I knew, and with being inspired by my own coaches and how much they did for me in my life, that they don't even know. They helped me survive. I had a lot of self-discipline, um, carried myself pretty well, and in the Marine Corps, I found family. It was like finding my home, and I did feel stronger mentally and physically, but my whole self, I was just where I belonged. I actually didn't remember a lot of the abuse until I was in the Marine Corps. When the memories started coming, I was overwhelmed, and it started to affect me in different ways. Um, I had a friend. We actually didn't like each other when we first met. He's another Marine. I was just going through my stuff, and one day he just asked me, like, "What's wrong with you?" And I didn't know how to respond. And then he just looked at me with some concern, and he's like, "Really, what's going on with you?" And I pretty much spilled my guts. Um, and it was kind of similar with uh, my other Marine friend. Um, I told them at about the same time, and they really helped me get get through my time in the Marine Corps. Um, I loved the Marine Corps. I still love the Marine Corps. Um, um, I decided to try and go to school, and with with school, I got accepted. I was only supposed to try a couple classes to see if what I could do. It was a whole thing with the VA support. So they had requirements of me, and I got to choose a class. Then I had to choose uh, a core class for them. And then the school uh, had me take a freshman course that was required. And then I had two other classes that were required. So I went from doing nothing or not able to do much at home to being a full-time student. And I didn't know if I could do it. Uh, my thing was just to try, being encouraged by my psychologist and then my therapist that I've had since, um, to get my bachelor's in psychology. And so semester by semester, it was like if I if I couldn't go on, then I could just quit at any time. And having that option was uh, just really good for me to not put so much pressure on myself. I just felt empowered. Um, I felt accomplished again. And my contract with the VA was if I got my bachelor's, I'd want to get my master's. And my master's would be in counseling. So I got the VA on my side, and I was able to get my master's in counseling. And so now I am a counselor therapist. I've used my experience of being a survivor uh, to begin and start to help other survivors best I know how.